Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another, hopefully, very interesting episode of the JoyPad podcast. That is the correct name as far as I'm aware. My name is Mike Pinto, and I'm just going to throw it to someone else before we all get into what we're talking about. What we're playing this week. My brain is just real bad. Fleming, save me.
Hi, Mike. I am...
Hi, Mike.
I'm not playing much different. I have had little time in the past week. In fact, this past weekend, I was asleep for like 15 hours one day. It was wonderful and glorious. So I haven't played much new. I have been watching my wife play a lot of Animal Crossing, which has been enjoyable. I have also played through, I believe, every single Payday mission now. The ones that I was missing, I've completed. I think I'm done. I had to double check, including all the WoW missions, which I don't typically play aloud, so that's been fun. And I've also been jumping on a whole bunch of the free games because of, the world situation. There's free games abound, so I've been getting all those and downloading them onto a new hard drive, getting all of them prepped, and I'm just going to blast through games. And I know you guys have all played it, so you're going to be talking about it, but I've also watched a little bit of a playthrough of Final Fantasy VII Remake, because I don't have a PlayStation 4, so I have to enjoy it on the YouTube, and just been enjoying seeing what new things are in the game and what the game looks like. It's so pretty. So I'm sure you guys will talk about specifics on the game, so I don't want to ruin it for you. But that's basically what I've been up to. Tom, I know you've been playing a lot of the Final Fantasy VII Remake, so I'll pass it to you. What are you doing?
You know what? I've not been playing as much as I would like to, but my wife and I did get back into playing it just the other night, and it was, again, fun and refreshing and delightful, and we just got to the introduction of Aerith, which I'm still training my brain to say because I played it on the original PlayStation 1 release where her name was Eris. But everything has still been really, really good. I've still really been enjoying it a ton. Which is great. I'm so happy, and it's like watching your childhood and just hoping that it wasn't bad because it was such a portion of your childhood. You're like, don't run over this in a poo scooter. Don't do it. Don't throw down a dog turd and drive over it on top of this. Don't do it. I don't want you to do it. But that's really been the main gaming focus. Like you, Fleming, I slept quite a bit. I'm in a busy work thing, which has been driving me a little bit crazy. But that's neither here nor there. Outside of that, I did make a recommended purchase that you recommended to me of the Crayola scooter game. And I have not yet played it, but it was a $3 investment on my Switch, and it looks adorable as Fleming recommended it to me as a Tony Hawk lookalike. On scooters, which for some fun backstory, we used to ride scooters around our college campus because we are all 8-year-old girls at heart. So,
Yeah.
But
It's funny you mentioned it. Yeah, I actually did play a little more of that. I got through the rest of the tutorial of it. It's actually for $3, and that goes back to the whole free game thing. For games that are like coming out or are digital copies of like cheap kind of knockoff games or cheap games, that actually is a pretty good one for $3 so far. So you should play it even an hour, and you'll get kind of that feel of Tony Hawk Pro Skater again. You're like, yeah, this is pretty good. The only downside so far has been the music. The music's obviously nowhere near like we talked about on that.
they don't have Goldfinger's Superman in there.
No, it does not have that. But yeah, it's fun. You should definitely try it out when you have time.
I have an important question.
Oh yeah, go for it.
When you would scoot around campus, would you fold them up and carry them, or like sling them over your shoulders like cool guys when you were done?
So I will be the first to admit that I did a few tricks on them.
Ooh.
Oh yeah.
Trying to get them to spin. I would often crash against my ankles, and it
No.
hurt.
Oh, so painful.
It hurt a lot, and I can't say the words that came out when I did that. I also so Tom actually too. We stayed over the summer for various jobs that we got, and one of my jobs was off campus. Still living on campus though for the summer, and on the way back, there's this big hill. And I'm like, I'm going to ride down as fast as I can, which is always a bad idea. And actually, I was fine from that perspective, but I was wearing flip-flops. I lost one of my flip-flops, so I'm like, oh, I don't want to have to walk all the way back up this big hill, so I'm going to put my foot on the brake and stop it. Well, friction causes a lot of heat, especially through metal, and I gave myself the nastiest. I'm talking like $50 size blister on the bottom of my foot, still like half a mile or so, at least, from the dorm that we were in for the summer. And I was just like having to whimper back home and like ride on the opposite leg because I couldn't push off with that leg. It was very painful, but yeah, we loved the scooters back then. So having a game where like it's not even a skateboarding game, it's a scooter game, I was like, I gotta get it, I gotta try it out. And it's been pretty cool. I've been enjoying the game.
It's got nostalgia feels, nostalgia gameplay, and Crayola branding.
Yeah,
what more could you ask
color
for?
You choose, 'cause,
Triple threat.
you choose your color in the game as like what you want your so like when you're riding around, you kind of like spill out color from the back of your car or your scooter, so you have to choose your color. I personally chose a nice blue, but you can choose various colors, all Crayola ones, of course. So
is burnt sienna available to me?
I believe there is a burnt sienna like color. I don't know if they say that name.
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. I don't think they say the names, but you can choose,
yellow.
your yellows, your reds, and blues and stuff. So you'll enjoy it. Get it an hour just to play through a little bit, so you at least kind of see what it's like. But for $3, if you have a Switch, if it's on sale, get that game. It's so much fun if you enjoyed any kind of extreme sport game.
Word. Now that I've ranted for an exceptional amount of time, I'm gonna throw it to Megan.
Why thank you, Tom.
You're welcome, most particularly for me ranting like a madman.
That's new.
That's so true.
Yeah, I'm not really playing anything too new from last time. Still trucking along, going through the Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's really making me want to play the original and also replay Final Fantasy X when I'm done. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm really happy with it. It's a lot of fun. And I love the little the little things that they bring back into it, like the victory noises, especially is Barrett? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. They did a lot of that in Final Fantasy 15 as well, with like Prompto making the same like victory noise. So it makes me happy.
That makes sense. That's pretty cool. And you should definitely go back and play the original.
Oh yeah.
And I would also advocate for 10. I know Pinto's played 10 recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So he may have a less tainted perspective on that than I. But I enjoyed the game immensely.
Oh, no, it's very good. I have very little bad things to say about 10. So, but yeah, I too just today received my copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have not gotten to play it a lot. Maybe like 2 hours, but it really is just like a glow up of my childhood, pretty much. There's just the opening cutscene made me tear up a little bit because it was so faithful to the original. The music is all there, like it's all the same music, just upscaled.
Yeah.
And even just little things, like the thing that got me when I was playing right before we started was there's an area that you go to in the Sector 7 slums. In the original, you would go down there, and it's an inaccessible area, so you talk to the guards, and the guard's like, oh, you can't come in here. And his commanding officer yells at him like, that's not mean enough, you gotta get hard, boy. And then you do it again, and he's a little more forceful, and the commander's like, still not good enough. And you do it again, and finally he puts a little oomph into it. And they kept that in the remake.
Yeah.
I was like, it's such a tiny thing, but I remember it from the original, and it's in the remake.
That's cool.
It's so crazy.
I think it's important for remakes to stick to originals as closely as possible. There might be a few situations, like, say there was a challenging dungeon. Like we talked last week about Ocarina of Time and how there was no clear description to tell you to throw a fish in front of the guy's mouth to make it open. So like
Yeah.
them modifying those situations to make it a little more clear, I'm fine with that. Like if they put a stone fish in front of the guy's mouth, or they had an NPC that's new that talked to you, that's great. But I think it's important that the key moments of games stay as close as possible to the original. Obviously improve graphics, maybe fix dialogue if something's wrong there, from a translation issue. But it's really important they stick to remake stick to the original.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I think they take a good amount of liberties with the remake, but I think they all take them in the same spirit. So it's almost like hearing like a song that you know really well being played by a band that's doing a dutiful cover but with their own style. It's almost like, a song I would fall back on is like Take On Me by Aha, done by Real Big Fish, which is both versions of the song are delightful. One of them is more suited to just kind of listening and hanging out, and you're going to hear it in a grocery store. One of them is more suited to, you're going to like dance a little bit more, and you're going to kind of groove and enjoy yourself and, get hyped up. So they each kind of bring something different, but they tell the same story. So just a little way I've been thinking about it.
That's beautiful, Tom.
Thank you.
Yeah, they've added stuff to it, but it's nothing that is life-altering or extremely different from the original. As far as I've gotten, I don't know. I have not played it a lot. But everything that they've added, I've been like, this is cool. Like, I'm intrigued by what they're doing differently, and I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, I haven't found anything detract.
I'm just excited that they finally introduced, I guess, a villain. I'm not entirely certain, with like the 3 question marks for a name, which is something I missed from video games growing up, where you have no idea who this person is. And usually they just tell you the name of the person, like right in the subtitles. But no, not this time. It's 3 question marks.
Who is this? I don't
Yeah,
recall
no,
this.
they actually that is actually true about a lot of older games. They couldn't really add mystery, or they didn't know how to put it in the game without just being explicit question marks. You don't know who this person is until they go, my name is this guy.
What?
Oh yeah.
My name is who? I'm not completing that because of copyright reasons.
No, but
It's spoken word.
Yeah.
You're protected.
This was the I don't know if you got to this point. The motorcycle battle.
Oh,
I'm not there yet.
That's the part I don't like.
That's okay.
I like the mechanics of it all, but I don't like that character. I just
Okay.
feel like he's not very well developed or executed, and just kind of got injected. Everything else is great.
I feel like he's another person that's just hitting on Cloud now.
Yeah, that's what
Everyone's
I
hitting
feel.
on Cloud or Tifa. That's all I've experienced so far. It's just everyone's hitting on Cloud or Tifa.
I think it's a dating sim with fighting.
Well, it's an asexual dating sim for Cloud, where no one will respect his preferences.
Nope. Which is leave me alone.
Yeah, go away. I'm attracted to bed.
do you guys know if that? I know it's a PlayStation exclusive right now. Do you know if there's any interest by, I guess that's Square, to expand it to PC at some point, or?
I feel like I saw a rumor.
I feel like
have
it's
to
inevitable.
imagine it. Yes, exactly. I feel like they will eventually. I think maybe when they start to have rumblings about the second installment, they'll be like, and for PC gamers, you will soon be able to experience the joy of Final Fantasy VII Remake on your system, or whatever.
Probably. I hope so, because as a man who has skipped the PlayStation 4, I want to play that.
So here's a question. You've skipped the PlayStation 4. Do you plan on going with the PlayStation 5, which should be out around holiday season this year?
Well, we'll see if it actually still hits on time with everything going on. I can't imagine.
The answer is yes.
Yeah. So far, that's still the plan.
Yeah, I would say
Yes.
it's probably
I know.
yes.
I can give you 2 reasons why.
The Last of Us 2
Yes.
and
And probably Final Fantasy VII Remake.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure they'll put it out on the 5. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
probably what I would do. if it doesn't come out on PC. So it's going to be a debate for me. Those consoles are getting pricey, especially at like
they are.
the first 6 months of release. The PlayStation and the Xbox, but especially PlayStation is like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's priced at least $500, not including games and all the other stuff you need for it.
Oh yeah.
That's what they're speculating, especially
Sadly.
now. I think it's harder for them to obtain what they need.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's like $699 to start.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've already said that they're cutting back on the number of units that they're going to produce within the first year.
So there's a good chance that even if you want to get one, you can't find one. Or if you can, the price is so absurd. It's not a bundled deal. It's just
that's
console.
what it is. They think the demand won't be as high because it's going to be more expensive.
Well,
I've never found that it's valuable to buy a console at launch. Usually, anyway,
because of all the bugs and stuff that could happen, they have to push out updates and patches too.
Yeah,
So.
and just speaking for this group, most of us have powerful enough PCs that we play a lot of games that come out on PC.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, I don't want to say strictly, but I am a very predominantly PC game player. It's always been kind of how I did things. So there's very few games where like, if you give me the option, I'm going to go for the console. I like the Switch for its portability. I think we talked about that a little bit in one of our first episodes. I like it for that purpose. But if you put all of those games on PC, I probably would get them on PC if the price is, similar or the same price. So that's just
Switch is one where I disagree, just because I think Switch is built for couches and being on the go, and I really like that about the Switch.
Oh, and I agree.
I agree.
I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying that if you gave me a choice as a person who spent a ridiculous amount of money on their PC, I would buy any game I could for PC before I buy it for a console in almost all cases.
Yeah. I think that is what I like about the Switch, though, is just the fact that the Switch is like the hashtag bring back the family room movement.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Ooh, so I don't know.
So
I have some
to answer the
nostalgia for
original
that.
question, yes, I'm going to get a PlayStation 5.
Yeah,
there it is.
Interestingly, also back to the original question, I saw a mention in a Forbes article that Final Fantasy VII Remake is a timed exclusive through April of 2021.
Okay.
So a PC release, an Xbox release may be coming, but probably not until after that date.
Okay. The nice thing is that there's so many people that do Let's Plays of it and also do like a full playthrough without any voiceover, which I prefer. I just like watching the game basically. So I'll be able to do that, and then it's one of those where like if the game comes in a bundle and I want the PlayStation 5 for another game or another set of games, then I'll get it. Or if I don't get it right then, that's fine. I got to see and experience it even though I didn't get to play it. So just personal kind of thoughts on it.
Well,
Right on.
now that we've gotten our Final Fantasy VII discussion out of the way, which is probably going to be happening for the next couple episodes,
agree.
let's be honest.
Topic of the week: where are you in Final Fantasy VII Remake?
That's the first paragraph in our 5-paragraph essay.
Does it contain our thesis statement?
In this week's episode, we'll be talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake, everything we've been playing, which is Final Fantasy VII Remake, and whatever the next topic is.
And what do we love? Final Fantasy VII Remake.
That's right. So it's my turn to bring a topic to the round table of discussion. I say that metaphorically. And this week I have kind of a twofer, but they go hand in hand. I want to discuss strategy guides and the little instruction booklets that would come with games when you bought them, which you don't get anymore.
Ow.
Because I know, personally, as a youngin', the first thing I would do is I wouldn't put the disc into the game right away. I would crack open the case and read that instruction booklet. Mm-hmm. Because most of the time, there weren't in-game tutorials, which I have grown to despise in my older age. So yeah, I wouldn't just put the game right into the disc tray, and I'm speaking about the PlayStation because that was like my first personal console. I would open the instruction booklet and learn how to play the game, basically, because a lot of times it would give you not just how to play, but introduction to the game. Like, hey, here's like the little bit of opening story that might not be given to you when you start to play the game. Here's a couple of the characters you might meet and a little bit about them. Here's a little mail-in card that no one ever used that you could fill out, and like I don't even know what those were for, but I always felt cool when I checked off. I was like, I own this game and this game and this game, and that was it.
I'm your biggest supporter.
You're my favorite pizza place. And as I got older, I would usually, because I think most of us, once we started hitting like our teenage years as gamers, most of the places you could go were GameStop, who always tried to upsell you and were like, hey, you can buy the strategy guide with this game if you want it. And I was always like, yes.
Please.
Oh yeah.
Yes, please.
I always wanted that strategy guide.
Me too.
And to follow up with the little booklet, just I think maybe it's emblematic of the way the world has changed. But if you were to give me the option of choosing between a tutorial, like an in-game tutorial, or the little booklet that tells me all the stuff that I can do with some neat artwork and some character background and stuff, give me the little booklet.
Yep.
Give me the little booklet. I don't want to sit through pausey screens every couple seconds. I want to be able to take it at my own pace, which was an awesome thing that the little booklet let you do. And the other thing that was great was the world that we used to live in didn't have, well, this is not the great part. We didn't used to have smartphones. So you didn't used to be able to look up things about your game at a moment's notice. So what I used to do as a pioneering little youngin', I used to bring my game booklets with me when my mom would take me along to church and stuff like that. So I would have these little fun paper booklets, and I could keep up about the games that I wanted to play and fill my head with all the visions of fun that I was going to have as soon as I got home. So that was...
I thought you were going to say you called the gaming hotlines for tips.
That is not an experience I ever had, despite full view of the number for technical support on the back of the Game Boy Gray Brick that had the Mario holding a wrench in his hand.
Yes.
I always, I don't know, I feel like I've had dreams about that number and what conversations must have gone on.
Yeah, about half of the bottom shelf on my bookshelf next to me is full of just old strategy guides that I have. And I never wanted to use them while I was playing the game, because first of all, it was spoilery, and second, it felt like cheating.
Yeah.
I would usually play the game twice. I would go through it once and just do what I could do, and then go through it again with the strategy guide to find out what I missed.
Well, I think the strategy guide was good to have on a first playthrough if you got stuck.
Yes.
Because I feel like that was an occurrence that used to happen a lot more. I definitely remember using strategy guides for Pokemon a lot because I was a child, and it made things easier. And I remember using a guide for Gold and Silver when it came out, and I was, over at a friend's house in a sleepover. We're all playing it on our Game Boys at the same time. We're all like, oh, I got this far. Oh, I got this far. Oh, I got this Pokemon. Oh, I got this Pokemon. But we knew where, everything was because we were looking in, the Brady Games guide or whatever, whichever one was handy at the time, which was awesome. I mean, it was kind of cool because we were also sharing in the experience at the same time by using the same reference material, which I thought was neat. My biggest strategy guide experience, and curtail me if I've talked about this on this podcast before, but when I played Final Fantasy VIII for the first time, I did not use a strategy guide whatsoever.
And you wish you had.
And I wish I had, because the one thing I didn't like about Final Fantasy VIII was the draw magic mechanic, and I thought it was dumb. I just, kind of ignored it and went about my business. I was focused on beating bosses, and I got to the Witch in Space, and at that point, I had 3 Guardian Forces. I had Ifrit, Quetzalcoatl, Shiva, and that was it. And I had the magic lamp you could use to fight Diablos and get Diablos. But I was a kid, so I was scared to do it, so I didn't do it until I was on the spaceship. And then when I did it, he was at level 1 when you get him. So I didn't know that you acquire the summons in this game, which were the Guardian Forces GFs, by
Jeeps.
using the draw mechanic against bosses. Why would this be a thing? Like, I
think we should
fathom
probably
it.
stop talking about Final Fantasy VIII. That was such a poorly designed game, with the exception of the card game. That was amazing.
The card game was great. The card game's still one of my favorite things. I would play the game again just for that. But I got a strategy guide eventually. I think I just put the game down for a long time because I just couldn't beat it. And I got the strategy guide and it told me that you could do that. And I went, oh. And then I started the game over and I played the whole way through and I beat that light bulb at the end and I won that game. Way to go, hero of time, Squall Leonhardt.
I mean, to that point, though, I also have a Final Fantasy VIII guide, and it is torn to pieces because I looked at it so much because that game is so obtuse without a strategy guide.
It really was. It really even the concept of having to upgrade weapons based on components that they didn't tell you where to go to get them.
You had to find the magazines.
Well, you had to find the magazines, but you had to have the things to build the gun in the magazine.
Oh yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Totally.
It was wild. I don't know what they were thinking. I feel like Final Fantasy VIII was some developer's fever dream, and he just pieced it all together one night and said, yes, this will work, as he had paper dolls of Squall and Renoa that he banged together in front of himself. You're the most handsome man in the room, she said, as they danced around. And she was somehow also a terrorist cell leader who was bombing trains. I don't know. We'll get off Final Fantasy.
So before I go, because I have actually a slightly different perspective on this, Megan, did you all ever have strategy guides and the like?
I know I definitely bought a couple. It wasn't like a main go-to for me, and I can't even remember what I had them for. Maybe Majora's Mask, I think. But strategy guides weren't huge for me. I do miss instruction manuals. Like, they hold a special place in my heart. I think even last time I talked about the little note section that they had in the back where you can keep track of different things that you found out. And of course, you couldn't keep track of everything there, but just, you had your character bio, you had your world bio, you had your control layout, everything. So they're super fun and cool and just a nice little collector's item. I still have mine from my SNES games, a couple from my NES games, but not much after that. But yeah, strategy guides, I didn't really go all in with them.
So you're closer to me, and I may be wrong about this, but I believe I never bought a single strategy guide. And I know that's kind of whoa, it's a little surprising, but part of the reason why is because as a kid, and it really depends on family structure too, I did not get an allowance. I did not get that. If I wanted something, I'd ask for it, and then I basically built up favors, or I hit my birthday and I got those things. That's basically how I got everything. So the idea in my head of, oh, Mom, I want this game, buy me this game, and also buy me a $24.95 strategy book, which I only need the first time I play.
They were pricey.
It wasn't like it was a couple of dollars. So I disagree that I did not find them very beneficial. However, what I did find, and I don't know how much you guys did this, but anyone who played historical games knows that historical games are wonderful because they'll give you a book that will tell you history about that character, that unit you could create. So one of the ones I clearly remember, and I don't think any of you played it, was an RTS called Empire Earth, which I think I probably still have if I go looking for it. But it was basically a historical game where you started in the Dark Age, if you will, a prehistoric age, and you went all the way up to, I think it ended at 2100, but basically a space age. And every single hero in the game had a backstory that you could read in the book. The book was this, very thick. Every unit had a story about that unit. So one of the units you can make was a phalanx or a legionnaire or something like that, and they would tell you the history of the Greek phalanxes or the Roman legionnaire armies. And I always did very well at history, and I completely think that those games were what kind of inspired me to be good at and learn history. So like for me, I remember driving home after buying one of those games. My dad would be driving late at night, and I'm sitting there in the passenger seat or the back seat reading those historical books, because that's what the kids did while you were waiting to get home to play the game. So that's for me more along the lines of what I did. And I really want to find that book now and look at it again, because it was amazing how much effort went into not just the game, but the content that they gave around the game. Obviously, the person or the group that made it had a passion for what they were also, building beyond just this unit attacks this unit, and that's cool, or you can zoom in, and that's really cool to see it close up or something. So that for me was more of those kind of games.
I remember learning a lot like that from like Civilization games as well, too.
Yeah.
Because Civilization 2 Test of Time was the first one that I played, and I remember just learning a lot, even just about world wonders and civilizations and different types of like specific units that the civilizations employed during the various ages, the heights of the different civs. So that was pretty cool. I mean, I never got a fancy book along with that, which I'm sure would have been awesome to have, but alas.
I think it's good that you brought up, like, you said the care that they put into those, because I can think of some instances, and when you buy strategy guides, they usually, put it in big bold print, the official strategy guide.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of unofficial strategy guides. But I have some official strategy guides where there were clear mistakes.
Oh, yeah.
Or just blatant misinformation in a strategy guide. Like, I have the strategy guide for Breath of Fire 3, where they tell you, this fight's really difficult, and it's okay if you lose this fight, but you can win it if you try really hard to do this strategy. You can't.
Trust in the heart of the cards.
You literally cannot. People have game sharked into the game to beat that. There's no HP value on the enemies. They're just placeholders. It is impossible to win that fight. And then me as a little kid spent like 14 hours grinding trying to get to high enough levels to beat this fight when it's literally impossible, but I didn't know that because the strategy guide said I could.
Yeah, I was about to say the Chrono Trigger Lavos fight, the first one that you do, you're supposed to lose.
That one you can beat in subsequent playthroughs, but I'm pretty sure it's impossible your first playthrough.
That always crushed me as a child when, like, you're fighting this boss and you're not meant to beat it, but you're, like, wasting potions and all of this effort on dying.
Cecil fighting Mirror.
And then you get to those fights where you're like, am I supposed to lose? Is this like Chrono Trigger? And then you lose and you get the game over and you're like, crud.
Ah, man.
Beans.
Beans.
But there was also, I don't know, it sounds like Tom and I are the only ones that like really got into strategy guides. Did you get the strategy guide for Final Fantasy IX?
You know what? I don't know if I did, because I had a combination strategy guide for Final Fantasies. I want to say it went from like 5 through 9.
Wow.
I'm not sure if it stopped at 8 or 9, but it was done by the Game Informer crew. And it was comprehensive, and it had really nice art, and it was just really nicely put together. It wasn't even like an overbearing strategy guide either. It was probably relatively light in the scheme of things, but I just remember using it for all of those games. 8 on.
Yeah, and I know we're not supposed to dump on things, but the world universally agrees that the Final Fantasy IX strategy guide is one of the worst things ever made, because they linked it to a service that Square started called Play Online.
Oh.
I don't remember if you had to pay for it or not. I don't think you did. But
Play Online was free.
Yeah, it would be like, do you want to know more about this? Type this keyword into Play Online. And that's what the entire strategy guide was.
Oh, no.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Why would you betray us like that, Square?
By the way, Play Online doesn't exist anymore. I don't know when it went defunct.
Well, I believe Play Online was reabsorbed into the arm of Square Enix that does the MMOs, so Final Fantasy 11 and 14.
Okay.
Because 11 originally was launched through the Play Online service. So eventually I think Square kind of got with the times along with everyone else that realized, hey, the best branding you can really do for your online services is to maintain the same name as the rest of your company.
Yeah.
Oh!
Weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think strategy guides and the little instruction booklets are a big deal for me personally of why I'm such like a lore nerd when it comes to like any game, because you always got those little tidbits of information that were a lot of times unimportant in terms of storyline, but it was just world building that made you more interested in what was going on.
Yeah.
Well, I think, again, I think what I really liked about it is that it made an offline connection to a game that you could only play while you had access to your console. So, like, you could bring that book with you to a number of other situations and continue to immerse yourself in that world. And that's, I mean, I think that's what I miss about that. And I don't think you really get the same thing, you know, with just having a smartphone and being able to Google stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was a lot of hard work and care and art and design and just world building that had to go into those guides as well as in the actual game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And now you just go to GameFAQS and there's like a notepad document with the guy being like, well, this boss was really easy, so if you have a problem with him, I don't know what to tell you. And it's like, all right, guy, I just was looking something up.
hey, he built some really nice ASCII art word title. So, okay, so I don't want to hear it.
I think now, though, like, especially today's RPGs, a lot of that world building is built into the game. Like, you find a scroll or a document somewhere, and you go into another menu, and you can read, you know, very small print, but whatever
Yeah.
it is, which I don't appreciate as much. I rarely
Nope.
ever read any of it. But I don't
As
know.
a jaded adult, I ignore all of this.
Yeah, yep. Unless I have to read it, I ignore it.
A lot of Final Fantasy 13 had like a huge
Yeah.
lore library in the menus.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to be interested in this, but for some reason it's just not.
There was too much. It was too small. Yeah, I'd rather play the game.
Another game that had it embedded was Baldur's Gate had it.
Oh, yeah.
Baldur's.
Had a lot of those. It had like books and tomes that you could open up and look through. It had letters that were not essential at all. You could sit there and read through all of them. It's interesting when games kind of try to throw all of that in there, but you're kind of into this weird spot of like, well, I'm able to play the game. Why do I want to sit here and read all of these things? So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Skyrim
Yep,
was guilty
Skyrim
of
was
that
another
too.
one.
Oh,
Like,
definitely.
it's like, okay, I don't really want to read the Daedric Princess, but it's nice that you're giving me the option to do so.
I think that's a modern day trapping is, I don't know if they're creating these readables out of commitment to bygone lore, or if they genuinely want to build the backstory and there's just not enough time to build it into the game. But really, I mean, the real proper way to do it is to have it be something that you experience as a player.
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
otherwise, you should buy a book.
yep.
Yes.
I mean,
So.
yeah, obviously work is, someone's writing those. It's not like
Yeah.
you're just spewing gibberish out onto a page.
Have you read? But you actually basically just said you haven't read some of those though. But if you read some of them, they're pretty bad sometimes. You're like, what is this
yeah,
that
I
I'm
agree
reading?
They are. Every once in a while, you're just like, who?
Yeah, but I mean, people put effort in. Some of them are actually pretty good. If you do, some of them are. If you read them, you know, especially what it seems like to me is that they hired somebody to write a specific book for a quest. You know, you have to read this book,
Yeah.
or you have to know something from the book to understand how to do this piece of the quest. And because, you know, they want to keep him as a full-time employee, they're like, hey, just go write some other books to add into the game. So the guy's like, okay. And he starts writing the wizard, witch, queen, king person did this magical thing.
Yeah.
Here's the story. And it's like, okay, great, you know, but it's just because they had a time sink, as a writer to do that. So I don't know. Some of them are sometimes enjoyable though, especially if you get ones that are more of like, that are really in depth, that have multiple like stories. So it's not just one little book that's just thrown around, but it has like part 1, part 2, and
multiple
you can follow
volumes.
that
Yeah,
story.
Yeah.
I always feel I like the little notes in those situations a little bit more than like when they attempt to give you an excerpt from a novel or a history tome or something like that. I like it better when it's something that somebody scrawled on like a piece of notebook paper and you find it and it's a hint of something that you need to do, because then it's impactful. It's a realistic way to get into the mindset of someone you otherwise wouldn't get the mindset of in the game, and it helps you advance the story. And it's also brief.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
Whereas if you're leafing through the tomes in the library of one of the many castles of Skyrim, and you happen to pull out the 3 pages of the dreadful deeds of Daedric the Druid, and you look in it and you get like 3 pages, I mean, if that were a real book, there's probably like 300 pages, and they're all like a really weird, dense tome written in some strange language.
Very Tolkien-esque, yes.
And I appreciate that they're giving you the gist, but it's, looking at a reference material like that always ends up being like, meh, for me.
I think survival horror does a really good job of like the lore that they put in or the notes that they put in. It's quick, it's to the point, and it fits the world.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember the itchy, scratchy, delicious or whatever note from Resident Evil 1, where, I can't remember the exact details of it, but it sticks in my mind because it was just so like, whoa. Mm-hmm. There's another one that was a solution for a puzzle in, I think, Silent Hill 3, where the number pad was set up like a face, and it was about someone like dismembering the face, and those were the numbers you had to push by assigning the parts of the face to the number pad. And I was like, that's messed up, but it's really creative.
Was it
Resident
Downpour?
Evil's really good at those.
Was it Downpour that had the side mission with like the ribbons on the like telephone poles, like the little girl that like the mother would tie ribbons around the poles so that she could find her way home, and like you find different things throughout, different letters and notes, and it just builds this story, and you see the ribbons, and it's like kind of heartbreaking, and I think that's well done.
Yeah, Downpour was almost a really good game.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that's world building, though. I mean, that's
For
a good
sure.
way of connecting the two things.
Oh yeah, the lore in the game was great. The gameplay was, but yeah, I feel like the other side of the coin with strategy guides, and again, like this is mostly referring to RPGs because that's really what I played growing up. But like some of these things, I'm unsure how you would have been able to figure them out without a strategy guide or going online and looking things up. For example, like we've been speaking about Final Fantasy X, how would I know that to get something for Lulu's ultimate weapon, I would have to dodge lightning 200 times? Am I supposed to infer that, I got a prize for dodging lightning 5 times in a row? Let me just keep dodging lightning and see what happens.
Take it to the max.
Or how am I
long can I
supposed
go?
to know that I have to get a 0.0 time in the Chocobo race to get Titus's weapon? How do you,
Yeah.
how is this stuff figured out without some... Because I don't
Take
think
it
I've
to
ever
the
found
max.
any indication
I think it's one of those
in-game
that's
for these
luck, and they
things.
want you to pass that off to your friends to kind of keep the game's discussion going, I think is what their goal is with those.
Yeah.
Just personally, I don't know if that's right, but...
Yeah.
I think it really is, though, them just... There used to be, because of the drive to replay the same game over and over and over and bleed everything out of it before moving on, people used to try to take everything to the max. So if you got at least one person who was taking the Thunderstrike dodging to the max, or they're racing the Chocobo to the max, they would figure it out. They would get the item. Word of mouth would trickle down. But yeah, that's really it, though. I mean, you make a good point that it's not like a shop in the Gold Saucer or something that shows you what's available as a prize list.
Because you're exactly right. Because to compare that to Final Fantasy VII, like, all you have to do to find stuff in that game is just explore really thoroughly.
I'm so good at that.
Yeah, like, Megan, you're going to find everything in this game because of the way you play games.
Click every wall.
I take forever.
That's what I do.
I feel like game developers have kind of been driven into a corner because of the advent of the internet, where as soon as a game comes out, someone's already writing a walkthrough.
And someone's trying to be the first to beat it and beat it quickly and all those things. So
or even data mining, like they find every little thing.
Yep. Or they start, if they can, they look at code if they have a way to do so.
Yeah.
They look at code to find things. Yep.
Data mining has just taken off. Like, people look at that so much now, and I feel like that was another big change, because people didn't used to load the CDs from the game into their PC and try to analyze rows of code before. So.
Yeah, and I mean, that sort of thing is interesting when someone's like, oh, we discovered this thing that was, it's on the game disc, but it's not unlocked content, so it must have been cut. Like, that kind of stuff is cool, I think. But when people are, just being that person who's like, oh yeah, I beat this game in three hours. Like, I saw people doing that with Resident Evil 3. And like I said, it was a short game. But when people are like, yeah, I beat it in 2 hours, I'm like, you paid $60 for that, man.
Did you even enjoy it? Like,
did you enjoy it?
Did you have fun?
Exactly.
Have fun. Try and have fun. Don't try to be the quickest hand in the West. Just be the guy that has a good time playing the game.
Yeah, the only people I forgive for doing it like that are people who are posting gameplay so they don't feel the need to explore certain pieces because they want to get that, the general story. So like in the case of, if we said Final Fantasy VII, one of the things you can do is defeat all the weapons later on in the game. I don't want to say any more, but you can go and you can find them and you can defeat them. You don't have to, though, for the most part. So in that case, I don't expect someone that's doing the story of Final Fantasy VII to go do that. I don't want to see that. I want to see the story because that's what I'm interested in. So that when I get the game, I know the general story and feel I can take more time to go do those other things, to go play more of the Golden Saucer games, to go and do those, other adventures or side quests. So I kind of get both parts, but I would agree with you. People rush through and it's like, well, are you going to go back to the game again and play through it again? Are you not interested in that? It's the whole, instant gratification kind of culture we live in now with, people want to binge watch a whole season of a show and stuff. So it's unfortunate, but I don't think any of us here play RPGs, especially like that.
No, not at all.
No, I normally try to take my time.
Yeah.
It's gotten to the point with some of them where I stop trying to take my time and I try to focus on the story more. Jedi Fallen Order is a case like that. I don't know if any of you have played that game.
I haven't. I have it, but I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of exploring that you can do in it. But whether or not the exploring is valuable is something that I weigh when I play the game. Also, switching to easy mode so that I can feel like a true Jedi and cut stormtroopers in half with a single blow.
I can't tell you how many times I've started and stopped Skyrim, and I still have not completed the main story in that game.
God,
Skyrim.
me too.
The story is not as... It's good. It's a fine story, but it's not as good as just exploring the world because there's so much to do.
Right,
in Skyrim.
like the side quests. It's
my older brother.
The most fun story arc in Skyrim is the claiming of the castles, where you go with whichever army you choose, and you go.
Right.
That is by
different
far
castles.
the best side quest
That's
story.
my favorite.
My older brother, I personally did not have this, but he told me a story that he started playing Skyrim and he went to the first town. He went to effectively the first town, and at that town you meet a guy who you can drink with, and if you drink with him, you end up like 200 kilometers away, it feels like, in a random town. So that's what he ended up doing. And he's like, okay, so I'm off the main story. I'm just going to have fun now. So, I love Skyrim for that kind of thing. Skyrim is a very good game, and I really hope they end up coming out with a new one soon. But it's like GTA 5. I think they are working on one. It's the same as like GTA 6 they're technically working on, but who knows when it will come out.
They have another IP that they're working on right now, too. I think it's Starfield. I think I was talking to Pinto about it the other day. But that's like intergalactic RPG exploration, so we'll see.
I'm just hearing about this, but I'm so in.
Yeah. It's I'm sold already. I like Bethesda.
Generally speaking, I like Bethesda. It's only when they commit crimes against Fallout that I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Skyrim's so good.
It is.
And, I just feel like you can play Skyrim 50,000 different ways and find a new 50,001 way to play it.
I mean, and that's the sort of game too where I feel like a print strategy guide would be dope.
It would be so big for Skyrim.
Oh yeah.
It would be like the size of the Encyclopedia Britannica.
I think there is.
But-
I think there is one though. They made one for Oblivion at the very least.
I
because,
know.
My
Dear
good friend
Internet.
Tim had one. Yeah.
Like an official one, you mean? From, a Bethesda approved kind of walkthrough person.
Yeah, man, it's out there. 442 Thrift Books. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Prima Official Strategy Guide by David Hodgson.
There you go.
Used in acceptable condition for $4.42.
Wow, that's cheap, man.
That is
Well,
very,
Skyrim also came out
very
like 10
cheap.
years ago, so...
Yes,
It's
but the
true facts.
remaster.
It's
Well,
an old
It,
It's an
okay,
old
it,
game.
it says temporarily unavailable when I click on it.
well.
So clearly someone bought up that deal. The next one's up are in like the $60
Wow.
range. So that makes more sense.
Yeah, and I just have to wonder, like, how comprehensive is it? Because take a game like that or like a Red Dead Redemption 2, like, those games are gigantic.
Yes.
All right.
So, like,
So
how
let me
comprehensive are they?
Let me inform. It is an 800-plus page guide.
Oh, man, that's a
boy.
big
It is a
guide.
fully revised version of the guide, plus robust add-on content.
That is a big guide.
Wow.
I mean, I'm intrigued. I would like to. I wouldn't want to buy one, but I'd want to look at one.
Yeah,
you
it
know?
probably is one of those that, like, it doesn't have a straightforward guide. It has, like, every quest is listed in there. When you start a quest, you get the quest name, so you can kind of follow that walkthrough.
Learn about the
Right.
You
factions.
mentioned the civil war that occurs in Skyrim, but I also really love the Dark Brotherhood assassin one. That is a
Yeah.
really good quest. The whole storyline quest there is really, really good. And I would be surprised if anyone that listens to this hasn't played Skyrim, and if you haven't, you really got to play it. It's
Do
one
it.
of the best games that came
Skyrim.
out of the 2010 to 2020 decade.
Might even be the best, and that's with my love of Fallout.
Well, you have
pushing
like,
those games up and Mass
oh my
Effect
god,
games,
we're
all that
running low
stuff,
on the
too.
time, but we could go through 2010 to 2020 and talk about game like that.
A
That
lot.
might actually be a great topic for us next week of what is the best game of 2010 to 2020, because there were a lot of
But
good
we
games.
have to break
that
it
came
down
out.
into categories and
Maybe we have to break it down
know.
to the category,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but it's a podcast. We can just talk about things.
true.
I mean,
Okay.
it's yeah,
I approve.
it's hard because like personal preference and objectivity and all that nonsense.
well, yeah, if you
I mean, for
I'd be
for
down.
me, like I liked Skyrim, but it's probably not. I don't think it's the. I don't know what the best game would be for me personally, but I don't think it would be Skyrim. I don't know.
I don't think it's my personal favorite either. I just think if I'm picking like an objective Like, if I had to try to pick an objective, like, favorite of the world, I would probably go with
Let's hold
Yeah.
the discussion. There are so many games I'm thinking of that came out from
Yeah.
2010.
That's
From
fair,
January
yeah.
2010.
You know, I mean, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, whatever it was, is definitely my favorite. I'm
Well,
just
that was
saying.
like
Listen,
2001.
but did it come out
or
in
something.
2010 between 2010 and 2020?
And did they have strategy guides? I bet they did.
To
I
Ollie.
bet there's a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 strategy guide.
Oh man.
Let's ask Google.
But yeah, there is honestly something I miss about strategy guides, and I bet I could find one for like the Final Fantasy VII remake if I wanted to. I have the original Final Fantasy VII strategy guide,
Wow.
like right over there. But obviously things are going to be different because the game's
Yeah.
not truly
Right.
faithful to the original.
Those are one of those that aren't going to cost.
Oh, there it is.
They're not.
There it
They're
is.
not
it
going to
is.
unfortunately cost a lot of money, but they're one of those things that you look at and you're like, man, I had a great childhood looking at that stuff. So keep them, Pinto. I keep all my historical ones that I mentioned. I have all of them somewhere. I have the original StarCraft Brood War box somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but I know I have it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have the strategy
I
guide
probably
for that
do too.
game, man. I thought it would make me like Gosu. It's like fire bats are good against Zerglings, and I was like, yeah, let me try that. And I made nothing but fire bats and got eaten alive. So thanks a
Back
lot.
to the unit.
The thing is, that strategy guide was meant for the
It
single
was.
player campaign and not multiplayer.
Yeah, and the game
Because,
evolved so much
baby,
since that
The
came
single
out.
player campaign's hard, though. You could use that for that, you know?
It is.
It
It
is.
is difficult, man. I've tried to go back to play it, and some of those missions are very difficult.
Man, what a fun
But
topic.
yeah, that was my nostalgia trip for this week. I'm sorry that some of you didn't get quite as into strategy guides as I have, but I'm just like,
All
It's
you
part-
Gen Z whippersnappers, go out and demand printed strategy guides. Call up GameFAQs and demand that they hire an art and printing department and create.
real quick though, the one thing that has given me that strategy guide type vibe in the modern day is the Stardew Valley wiki.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it has all the artwork
it's so
and
thematic.
it's done so well that it feels like a strategy guide made by like a wonderful company rather than just like a characterless white notepad.
Pinto, you have to
document.
be
Yeah.
like the data hoarders out there and download the entire website so you can save it no matter what. If it goes down, you still have a copy.
And then I'll print it and
Oh my
bind it
god,
together.
that'd be so expensive.
Sell it.
You all know I am a gigantic like Stardew encyclopedia. If you're like, what is this person like? I can tell you like automatically.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what is Haley like? Coconuts, bro. And sunflowers. Pink cake?
Have you even talked to her?
What about Caroline? Caroline loves summer spangle and fish tacos.
Hello.
Where's Abigail? Like, she likes to eat quartz.
Quartz.
Yeah, and Harvey likes wine, pickles, and coffee. He's a great doctor.
Yep. And Shane likes beer.
Shane likes beer, even though he's a recovering alcoholic.
Oh,
You can still give him beer, and he'll still love it.
Yeah.
When he's in
Oh,
recovery.
man.
What does that say about you, player?
You can give beer to children, as I found out one terrible day when I gave beer to Vincent, and it turned out it was his birthday, and he had tears in his eyes when I gave him alcohol. They weren't joyous tears; they were sad
No.
tears.
Oh, God.
What if they were joyous tears? What if they were?
Thank
You're a
you.
man now. You're a man now, Vincent.
birthday!
Well, next week it is Michael Fleming's turn, and I'll be
Yeah.
interested to see if he's going to bring the subject he suggested tonight or if something else.
Oh, I have a spreadsheet of ideas, and it's growing. It's ever growing.
Good.
There's so many,
Good.
so many
That's
things
what
on
we
my
want.
mind.
Would you say that you're spreading your sheet?
I would say I'm spreading my sheet.
Much like your
PG-13
reserved seat?
jokes.
Yes. So I have some great topics coming up. I have not chosen my final topic yet, so I can't even give a preview of it for anyone. But I have some thoughts, and I'll be bringing a good topic. Make sure it's a good discussion.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. You can make sure to follow all of our social medias wherever you wish to. Those are JoyPad Pod, wherever you want to look. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and actually that's it. I think.
It's a good amount of stuff.
Yeah,
Not JoyPod Pad.
that's
tried.
right. JoyPad Pod. We're going to
reserved
confuse
by
people so bad.
It's been reserved by some Russian leprechauns for quite some time. JoyPod Pad.
Well, that's about it. What was our sign off from last week?
Stay joyful, everyone.
That's it. Until next week, stay joyful, everyone. Bye.
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 Why do I wave?